Now there is
Yeah.
another load of absolute rubbish, and that is the Iranian people are hostile to their regime. Now, whether anyone is hostile or not, in every country you have a wide variety of opinion. But the
That is true.
minute you threaten that country, they all come together. If you remember, when the Iraqis attacked Iran in 1980, they were
Yes.
under the impression this is a broken country. The armed
Absolutely.
forces are broken, the regime has barely taken charge, their institutions are not in place, and everything is very confusing. The minute the Iraqis crossed the border, the country became one. They were
That's
able to
true.
hold their own. And if there is any parallel you need today, you have got the Iraq experience of 1980 to 88 staring at you. Look at the damage that the Iranians suffered. Day after day, week after week, month after month, the entire international community supported Iraq. They allowed them to use chemical weapons, and yet the Iranian did not surrender. It is
That's
only
true.
right at the end that they agreed to a truce, which he called a bitter challenge. But Iraq, Iran is therefore, you cannot destroy a regime on the basis of war. What you are doing is not regime change; it is destruction of Iraq as an end in itself. What the Americans tried to do in Iraq. You
Yes.
remember, they
With
said we
Saddam
will send
Hussein.
them back to the old Stone Age. That's what
Yes.
the Americans do, so that the country doesn't recover. It takes 20 years to recover. But do remember that that assault upon Iraq gave birth to Zarqawi and the
Mm,
Islamic State. And that
that's
was
true.
the scourge. Look at how the American occupation was undermined by the very forces that emerged as a result of the occupation. So the
Mm.
Americans should have caution here that there is no such thing as regime change that can be done by military force from outside.
I fear, in the region itself is that more and more of the publics, but also in their own ways, more of the leaderships are going to be convinced that Israel is acting like a radicalizing, destabilizing, revisionist state, which is a problem because it is, when your population is watching these images every day, it winds that population up. It becomes a security issue for you. And so I think people would really like to see Israel step back from this, be encouraged to step back from this, also for its own good, for its own well being, by its friends. It has friends in the West, it has friends elsewhere. That Israel needs to step back from this because otherwise we are in a very significant downward spiral that won't just end in the Middle East. As you say, there are co-religionists of those who've been impacted elsewhere. And the last thing we need is for Israel to act as the theocratic genocidal state with a nuclear weapon, which it accuses Iran of being. So you don't have many voices of moderation and realism and caution at the moment inside Israel. You have got one of the opposition figures, Yair Golan, who has turned around and said, whatever the military achieves in Gaza or in Iran, unless you have a political plan for the day after, we are stuck. And this will only take us to bad places. And I think that's what's missing with the current Israeli leadership, with their lack of pragmatism, with their extremism, is that you can't be a regional hegemon if your only tool for solving problems is bombs, and if your vision for the region is one that is fundamentally unacceptable to those who you live around because it's unreasonable. So there's the fault line. Israel needs to be pulled back from that for the good of those around it, but also for its own good. And we're not there at the moment. And if I very briefly cast a slightly wider net, this may well be accelerating an already shifting geopolitics globally and an already shifting set of where power and also soft power resides, because people are now looking and saying, well, who are the responsible multilateral powers who aren't willing to lend a hand to an extreme ally like that? And that's one of the knock-on effects, because I think much of the world has lost its patience with a state that's acting in a rogue fashion and has the backing of the US. And like I say, I say all of this with no joy and with a great deal of pain, because I think this is very dangerous also for Israel itself.
Israel started the war with no declared target to eliminate Khamenei and to topple the regime. We meant to focus only on the nuclear and on the Iranian missile capabilities. But two developments happened. First, Israel understood that maybe we can persuade President Trump to get into the war itself. And second, we are succeeding in what we are doing. So I think that Israel got an appetite in a way, and we understood that only undermining the regime will prevent Iran from turning back for its nuclear ambitions. This is why Israel is threatening the regime and also threatening directly Khamenei itself. So the Khamenei is a risk that he never before encountered. We have to say that. Now, to your second question, we have to remember that we don't know what will happen if Khamenei will be eliminated. We can find ourselves in a good development, but also in bad developments. We can find ourselves against the RGC taking over Iran. We can find ourselves against Iran that actually disseminating or crippling into multiple elements. So we don't know what will happen. But I think we should remember that sometimes it's better the devil that we know than the devil that we don't know. So I think that killing Khamenei, I'm not sure it will change dramatically, first, the control of the extremists in Iran, and I'm not sure it's going to change the Iranian way. So we have to be very careful in what we are choosing to do.